Just got this in. So this is the KingKong, or rather the LDARC Tiny 6X 65 millimeter brushed micro drone. It's obviously a little tiny whoop type quad here. And it's the improvement to the original Tiny 6. So we're going to go over the specifications. So first, two major upgrades. So the biggest upgrade here is these 716 motors. They're actually 17,600 kV, 7 millimeter motors. So these provide some really good lift. I believe they're the same motors that the KingKong Tiny 7 provides. Now, as for the battery connector, they've also gone ahead and upgraded that too. So you've got a jst-ph 2.0 connector. So you're ready to use any of the high voltage batteries on the market, and you should be getting a good current flow through this connector. And it also shouldn't break. Decent quality here. This canopy is nicely made. I can see that they've applied some glue here to where the connector is, so that way it decreases the chances of it pulling out. I have the ready to fly version actually. Everything the ready to fly version comes with, it's all completely pre-configured to fly out of the box in angle mode. And we'll talk about the modes in a minute here. So you get one battery, you get the controller. Let's go over the controller real quick. The controller is capable of handling 3 different flight modes. As you can see, we've got the angle mode, horizon mode, and acro mode. But when you first get this, the only mode that you have is the angle mode. So you're only going to fly stability. That's how it was configured out of the box when I got it. Now, this is how you would configure it in beta flight if you wanted to have horizon, acro, and stability all on one. You'd have to set the sliders up just like this. That was confusing when I first took it out and I was trying to get into the different modes, and it wasn't set up for that. Well, because it is meant for beginners and they just want people to fly stability to start off with, which is all cool. But today we are going to be trying to fly this thing in acro mode because I want to see how well it performs with these motors on it and these awesome high voltage batteries. It even comes with a rechargeable battery, so you don't even need to load this with AA batteries or anything. It just charges right through the bottom here. So that's not the only thing you get in the box. You also get this charger and you get this battery voltage tester. Now, I've used these before and they're pretty good, so actually I haven't even opened them. Today what I have with me is my UPS-6 multi-charger, and this is the charger to get. If you want to whoop in style, this is the charger to get. Link to that is in the description below. So I can just sit here and plug in my batteries. I've got some Gowdang 260 milliamp hour 4.35 volt. These are the high voltage LiPos, so we're gonna be doing some serious whooping out here. Yeah, you can just plug this in and your batteries are all charging on this unit. Really handy unit. I'm just out here and I can suck power from this battery to keep going as long as I want. I'm gonna put the battery on. The battery's got a nice snug fit. Now, this is how you arm it. So make sure that this is green using these two. It's going to be green, bronze, and red, but just make sure it's set to green. And now you can arm it by doing this, because this button only has 2 lights or two switches, and it's pretty basic. That's it. So we are in the stability mode at the moment. Now, I've actually changed the PIDs on this thing to my liking, increased the angle a little bit. As you can see, it's a pretty fast flyer. Just kind of whipping around. I'm not even full throttle. Those 7 millimeter motors, the 716 motors, they really make a huge difference, I think. Plus, you're also getting way more voltage from the battery because they fix the connector. I mean, I know people love to build their own tiny whoops, but I really don't even feel that it's worth bothering these days to build a tiny whoop when you can just buy something like this, unless you want to build it for the fun of it, but this is all ready to go. Just whipping around across the field here, line of sight. So very, very impressed with the flight characteristics. I'm gonna fly it in. I'm gonna fly this in acrobatic in horizon mode now. So this is what you would configure if you had it set in beta flight. Now my controller is set to bronze, and I can do flips. As you can see, it'll automatically recenter you. So it's actually a really smooth way of doing flips. If you try to fly this thing in acro mode, though, without changing the beta flight settings first to the PIDs that I have, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed. I was just trying it in my backyard using the default PIDs, and it was so slow to even just do a flip. So I sat down and I played with the PIDs, and I got it responsive enough to the controls with the rates. I upped the RC rate, I upped a whole bunch of the values, and now it actually flips pretty decently, and I'm going to show you line of sight what it's like. Now here's a tip. This thing will not arm in acro mode if your throttle's all the way up. So you can even be it on green and see it will not arm. So make sure throttle's all the way down. Okay, now you should be able to do it. See, and it arms just fine. So that's going to confuse you if you set this up, is it will not fire the motors on if your throttle's all the way up, and that goes for all the other modes too. Let's take off. So this is acro, and as you can see, compared to what I was talking about before, the flip is much improved. Much more improved flip. Now the wind is fighting me a little bit here, but as you can see, let's do a backflip. Oh my God, that was rough. But this thing is like a tank, in all honesty. Nope. Only one of the little props kind of came up a little bit, but other than that, it's good. We're ready to fly. So yeah, you gotta bump those PIDs up. I've included, like I said, those are my PIDs, and you could set it to them when you're ready to go acro on this model. But otherwise, this is an awesome flyer to fly in stability. If you're totally new and you just want to fly FPV, or even fly this thing line of sight, this is a wonderful ready to fly unit. Alright, so I think everyone wants to see how does this thing fly FPV, so let's get those goggles on and fly FPV. Per usual, I will be flying with my Fat Shark goggles. I am locked into race band C1, and I've got a pretty good connection to this little guy. It comes with a 25 milliwatt video transmitter. It doesn't go any higher than that, but for this type of quad, you really don't need any more than 25 milliwatts. You're just going to be wasting your battery. So they've put an appropriate VTX in here. So let's put on the goggles and go for a flight. Alright, so just starting out here, I'm going around the track using the stability mode. So I'm just flying stability here, I'm not flying acro. And I like how the track looks, and you can see little arrows and all the things, and really kind of get an idea of just how fast I'm going around the track, I think. Because flying through the sky doesn't always represent how fast you're moving, but you can see it. This whoop's got some good speed. The 7mm motors really give it an extra boost. You know, so the previous whoop only uses 6mm, so really good improvement when it comes to those motors. I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to crash. Alright, so now this next part is going to be full of flips and split S's. Now, I'm really glad that I did those beta flight changes before I went out here, because otherwise none of this would have been possible. Those rates were too slow, they just wouldn't have been able to get me back up. Also, I enabled anti-gravity mode as well. So you're going to want to turn on anti-gravity mode in the settings if you want to be able to do these little split S's and these flips like this, and put in those PIDs and rates because you really, really need them. But anyway, I was really happy with how it was flipping for a whoop. Now, this is a fun part. I just wanted to do a dive, so I went up as high as I was comfortable to bring this thing up because I have no idea what the wind was like. And here we go. I'm going all the way down. Just doing a dive. The wind is just screwing with me. Yeah, there you go. That was nice. I really enjoyed that. All right, so now I'm literally upside down and just barely didn't have enough time to make it through that. But yeah, look, this thing's really, really fast, really acrobatic. This is sped up. It's just some cinematics, but I can do all sorts of little mini acro with this unit. So I'm gonna bring it in here. And I landed, and I want to land closer to me. Am I going to get the landing? Am I going to do it? No, I'm not. So what do I think of the LDARC KingKong, whatever, Tiny 6X? I like it. I think it's definitely a buy. A good way to get into the tiny whoop world without having to spend a whole ton of money. You compare this with some cheap goggles and easily get a taste of FPV. I think that the Acro is still tough with small units like this, but it absolutely performs way better with the 7mm motors and the upgraded battery type. So you can actually at least use something like this to get a taste of it. And it's built like tough as nails. You're really gonna have a hard time breaking this. And worst case scenario, you know, you're just gonna replace the frame or something like that, and that's cheap. You know, this is cheap. It's a cheap way to try to start to get into Acro. And for the ready to fly model, I was supposed to get the Free Sky bind and fly model, and I actually kind of groaned when I saw this controller. I'm like, oh man, like they just gave me a crappy controller. But actually, this is a little bit better than your typical toy grade controller. So I would say this is not bad. This is pretty good. Able to access all the modes. So I'm happy with it. For a ready to fly, I'm happy with it. Especially since, you know, you don't have to do a whole lot out of the box to get this thing flying. All right, that's it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. And as always, have a great day, guys.